This is the Dr. Berg Show. Live from the nation's capital, it's time to get healthy, lose weight, and feel great. Call now to speak with Dr. Berg at 866-561-4292. And now, Dr. Eric Berg.
Hi guys, welcome back and happy holidays. If you want to call in, and this is a live show, call the number 866-561-4292. Okay, so we're going to talk about keto, intermittent fasting, and any other questions related to that or related health questions. So Sherry's been on the line for 31 minutes. We're going to go right to Sherry first, Nashville. Go ahead, Sherry, you're on the line.
Hi, Dr. Berg. Thank you for taking my call, and thank you for everything you do to help us.
Sure.
My question is this. My husband and I have been on keto since January. Of course, he lost like 50 pounds in 3 months.
Of course. Yeah.
I've lost 65 pounds so far. That weight loss was primarily from January through July, end of July. And I have been at a complete stall since then. It's hard to believe, I know, but I have stayed completely on keto. We haven't cheated one time. My goal was to go through at least a year without having a cheat meal or cheat day. We've done that. We've been very faithful to it, but I've been in a complete stall. I've gone through countless videos of yours and watched to try to apply and find out what I was maybe doing wrong. I did do intermittent fasting with basically one meal a day.
Wow.
And I did lose. I did that for like a week, and I did that where I was just eating in mainly a 1 hour window. It was primarily just my dinner. Okay. And then I would fast until the next dinner the next day. And I lost 5 pounds like in about a week. But by the end of the week, I started gaining, and I was like gaining a pound and then another pound. And I was like, so that was kind of discouraging. I cut out dairy at one point for a week or two. That didn't break it. We had kind of gotten into the keto sweets, and I said, well, I'm going to cut that out completely to see if that helped. That didn't even get the scale moving. Even now, I only have sweets maybe once a week.
Okay. Well,
and I kind of like a medicine. Yes,
yeah.
Go ahead.
Let me just ask you a couple questions real fast. What's your age?
I am I'm about 52. I'm just in my early 50s.
Okay. Are you going through menopause, or have you gone through menopause?
I had a hysterectomy about 8 years ago. Mm-hmm. So
okay.
a complete hysterectomy.
Got it.
Yeah, and I have been overweight pretty much my entire adult life, off and on diets, and this is actually the first thing that I've ever done. I've never lost as much weight before, and I've never been on anything lasted longer than a couple of months. Okay. So this is the one thing, honestly, that I can live with, and I haven't cheated because I can live with it. I love the plan, mm-hmm. and I feel better. My numbers are great. The doctor was thrilled with everything, but I'm a little over a third of what I wanted to lose, and while I feel great and everything's coming down.
So let me ask you a question about that.
Mm-hmm.
As far as your body goes, and do you have a lot of loose muscle or atrophy on your body?
When you say loose muscle,
like do you have like loose skin, or do you have a loss of tone in your body? Do you have a lot of, like, is your body you don't have good tone? Is that an issue?
I don't know what tone is anymore, to be honest with you. Okay. I do have. I mean, yeah, just from being overweight. To be honest with you, I don't.
So let me just give you some tips, okay? Because I'm going to rapidly go through some other calls, but I want to give you some tips, Sherry. Usually in this situation, when you're not losing weight, you really need to shift to a different marker, an indicator, because everything else is getting better. So many women, when they hit menopause, they have a lot of what's called atrophy, and that's a loss of muscle. And so what happens is that they have basically the muscle is basically turned to fat, and they just have lost a lot of muscle density and mass. That's the big thing. And if you want to go get a test, I think that'll be very valuable just to measure your muscle mass. Now, as you do this, you're going to be healing insulin resistance. So you're going to start absorbing more amino acids, that's protein. And your weight will go up in some cases, but it's not fat. You're gaining more muscle protein. So that's why you can't really go by weight. I did a recent video on that. So I would just ride the wave and keep doing this, because you may find that you're gaining weight or maintaining on muscle density to the point where all of a sudden that the muscles come back and then the fat will start coming off. I would definitely add exercise in there very lightly and gradually increase it. But if you're doing one meal a day, There is no way you're going to gain fat. Absolutely none. And if you're sleeping good and you're eating the right things and not too much fat, it has to be muscle. So I think it's working, but you're taking weight as the indicator. So I wouldn't even worry about weight. You should be shrinking in size, and you should be getting stronger, but I think what happens is you have to gain that muscle back. All right? Good point, good question. So we're going to go to Keaton from New Jersey. Go ahead, Keaton.
Good morning, doctor.
Good morning.
First of all, thanks so much for all the wonderful videos.
Sure.
This is regarding my father, who is way back in India. He's about 75-year-old, and he had his bypass in 2011.
Okay.
From 2014 onwards, he started to have a neuropathy in his right leg.
Okay.
And now the situation is he cannot walk.
Wow.
He doesn't have a diabetes. He doesn't have a B12 deficiency. The only cause I could find is he was prescribed statin post his bypass surgery.
Okay.
So the question is, why it's happening only in one leg and not anywhere else?
So I have a question.
Yeah.
Is it on the right leg?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so let me answer this. Usually on the right side of your body, it's going to be more related to liver. And again, anything that I tell you is for entertainment. It's not meant to diagnose you or give you medical treatment. Check with your doctor before implementing anything. But the point is there's side effects from statins, which affect the liver, liver enzymes, and it usually will show up on the right side, in the right leg. So honestly, I think I would find an alternative. There are other statins that are less damaging, and I don't have them off the top of my head. I think there's one called Prostatin that's a little less, and don't quote me on this, it's a little less toxic than some of the other ones. So I'll release a video on that shortly, but I would take benfotiamine, okay? That's the type of B1 that actually helps with neuropathy, and it protects the nervous system. It's a type of B1 that you want to take in higher dosages to help reverse neuropathy from blood sugar issues. But I think in his case, it's probably a side effect from the statin, but if he's on statin and has high cholesterol, chances are he has insulin resistance. So again, benfotiamine is what you need to get from him. Change the diet, get him on a keto. I'm sure in India they don't have a lot of carbs. They don't eat a lot of rice, and I'm being very sarcastic. All right. Thanks, Keaton. Let's go to Karen. Karen, do we have any questions?
Well, good morning and happy holiday. Yes, we have questions. A couple here on menopause, premenopause, and hot flashes. Can the keto diet help that?
Well, when you go on a ketogenic diet, what's happening is you're switching from diesel fuel to electric fuel in your body. If you can just imagine, you're doing this conversion. And so it's going to take a huge stress off the adrenals, which usually what you need is a really happy and healthy adrenals as you go through menopause. And the fact that when you go through menopause, the ovaries go in retirement, the adrenal backs up the ovaries. So that's going to be pumping out way too much cortisol. And then that's when you have symptoms like hot flashes. So if your adrenals are healthier and not as tired, you'll have less symptoms. So yes, the keto and intermittent fasting is the absolute best thing. But I will say, some women that go in the keto and intermittent fasting, their period shuts off. So that's a little bit of a shift in hormones. And I'm going to do a video on that, but that wasn't the question, so I'm not going to answer that question. Do you have another short question, Karen?
Sure. I have a question here. What would cause a white tongue, and can keto or intermittent fasting help that?
Well, white tongue is a yeast candida, too much overgrowth in your body. And that's really a systemic internal issue that you need to start working on your digestion. Probiotics, I would do sauerkraut. I would do some good healthy probiotic that you would take, and then avoid sugar, which is the ketogenic diet. It's a low carbohydrate diet. That's going to help you. And the other thing is when you do intermittent fasting, Karen,
yes,
you actually put your body into this condition was called autophagy. Okay, and that means it's kind of like, think about you have a recycling unit in your house of taking the garbage and recycling it and going into healthy new raw material. Well, that's autophagy, and that's what's triggered with intermittent fasting. So one of the things that it recycles is candida, yeast, fungus, mold, and viruses. So you can clean all that up when you do intermittent fasting better than doing the 6 meals a day. So that's my answer. And also, you can take some grapefruit seed extract to help also speed up the results. And let's go to Frank in Seattle. He has a question about B1. Go ahead, Frank.
Hey, doctor. Enjoy your videos.
Thanks.
Seems like you might run out of videos.
I know. I think I'm running into a capacity where I don't have anything else to say. So hopefully I can get some other questions.
Right, right. Oh, I liked your video. I mean, your video on the liquids you could drink. But I went to this one website for insulin, the insulin index. You know,
Yeah. Right.
and they had gin as actually being the #1 lowest insulin on the index.
Gin?
Yeah, gin.
Okay. Okay.
But so the B1 is the one I was wondering. How much should I take on a daily basis?
Good question.
How
So
much gin?
as far as the gin, don't take any more than 5-8 shot glasses per day. No, the problem with the gin is, yes, it's low on the insulin index, but it's a solvent which shuts down the liver, which then creates a whole other problems with ketosis and health and regeneration. It basically kills liver cells. But yeah, it's low on the insulin index, but you kill the liver off. So you have to weigh out what would be the advantage of that. I think tequila is a lot better. No, just kidding. B1, you want to get that in nutritional yeast. That's the best source. You want a natural version. You don't want the synthetic unless you're doing a detox. As far as quantities go, you don't have to do the mega dosage if you do food-based or nutritional yeast. You can absorb it much better and use smaller dosages. So what I would do is I would do either 3 tablespoons of nutritional yeast a day or 6 tablets of nutritional yeast a day. I have one in a tablet form that is non-fortified and it has some natural B12. I like it, but you have to cut it in half and swallow it, or because the pills are kind of big, or chew a little bit and swallow it. And
But we're changing that.
We're working on it.
We're working on
it's
that.
IP. So
In progress.
yeah. Thanks, Frank. All right, we're going to go to Karen for one more question.
Okay, good. So Kay is asking, oh no, I'm sorry, it's Faye. Faye is asking, she says, I've lost weight on the keto diet and she feels better. Is it okay to go back onto some carbs on a moderate basis like sweet potatoes, grains, fruits?
That's a really, really good question because people, did she mention like she hit her target or something? And
She doesn't say, she just says she's feeling better, but
Yeah.
you know, it's that like keto is the solution versus the lifestyle.
So we got to look at, you know, people want to achieve a weight loss goal, they want to achieve a cognitive goal. If you go back to the carbs, you're no longer going to be in ketosis, and the benefits of anti-aging, of neuroprotection, regrowing brain cells and heart cells and all these things go away. So it's really, if your goal is just to kind of maintain a certain level of existence, that's fine. If you don't have a blood sugar issue, maybe you hit your weight. Some people can do it. What I would rather you do is go ahead and go off the program, see how you feel, and then go back on the program, and you decide what is better for you. And that way, you prove it to yourself. It's really, for me, it's like, it's going back to what we originally did. Our ancestors did not eat 5 meals a day. They had maybe 1 or 2 meals if they're lucky. That's just kind of what we're going back to, what our bodies were designed to do, and our bodies were designed not to consume all these carbs. So we're just kind of going back to that, and that apparently works good for our bodies. So you're going to actually achieve a level of health that's a lot higher on the carbs. Let's go to Larry from Indiana. Hey, Larry.
Yes.
Hi.
Hello there.
Hi.
Did you have a question?
Okay, I'm 65 years old, and I'm going to the gym 7 days a week using a treadmill for 30 minutes, and the speed is 3.7 miles per hour, and I'm trying to lose belly fat and build muscle.
Okay, good. That's a great question, Larry. exercise is responsible for about 15% of your weight loss. Exercise, okay? The type of exercise that's going to really produce that 15% would not be 30 minutes at the gym, because at that intensity, you might tap out your sugar reserve, but you won't really burn much fat from that. You would have to do high intense, short duration, lots of rest, full body workouts. The treadmill thing really is insignificant. In fact, you could even pick it up and work out for 3 hours and burn like 700 or 800 calories and no weight loss, nothing. So the benefit of exercise occurs later, after when you're sleeping, because you trigger certain hormones. But I'm just going to explain something. The diet is responsible for about 85%. That's like the significant part of weight loss. So you're not going to lose a lot of weight in exercise, if at all, especially if you're doing a little too many carbs, if any carbs. A glass of wine will pretty much ruin your workout. Half of a donut will do the same. So I would take my keto and intermittent fasting course. I have a new course, intermittent fasting, that just came out, that you can find. Where can you find that, Karen?
Well, if you're on Facebook Live, you just type in the word basics, and you will automatically get it. For you YouTube users, I'm not sure if there's a link down there. I haven't tested. Yes, there is a link down there.
Good. So there's a link down there.
Okay, good.
And you can click that. But that's what I think you need, is the basics. And I think if you do a search on exercise, that would help you. I did some videos on that. It might be hard to find. But that's a really good point, though, with the exercise. You're not going to see a lot of results with your belly fat loss, but you will if you do keto intermittent fasting, like massive. So thanks for your question, Larry. I appreciate that. Let's go to Derek. New York? You're from New York, right? You had a question.
Yes. Good morning, Dr. Berg. How are you?
Good morning. Great.
On behalf of so many people that I know who watch your videos and follow you, we just want to say thank you for all your videos and all your help. Dr. Berg, it's something a little bit off topic, although I have lost about 40 pounds within the past 2 months. I got misdiagnosed with a hiatal hernia, and due to being diagnosed with that, I steered away from many foods, and I was working out in the gym as well. This caused me to lose a significant amount of weight. So 2 months ago, I took a ultrasound, and my gallbladder, this is a gallbladder question, by the way, my gallbladder was fine. And then I took another ultrasound along with a HIDA scan just this week, and there was some, they found some sludge, and my gallbladder is now working at only 49%. And I have all the symptoms that you mentioned. I have bloating. I've had chronic constipation. I have excess trapped gas, and I go to these doctors, and they really don't help me in any sense. I've seen many doctors, and I'm just trying to alleviate this problem before it gets any worse.
Yeah. Okay. Well, good question. So let me just cover that. I think you're on the right track if you're doing keto and intermittent fasting, especially because when you don't eat, it gives the gallbladder a chance to rest and recover and build up the concentration of bile that you need to be normal again. So when you have sludge in the gallbladder, that's really a deficiency of bile, and it creates it can create gallstones. It can create just a buildup of some crud in there. And so what you want to do is you want to build up your bile reserve. You could even take bile salts as a supplement after the meal, which I think might help you initially with the bloating. But ultimately, you need to go exactly on the program that I talk about in the book here, which is a lot of vegetables, because that's going to be important in the liver and getting the liver cleaned out. And then also not eating as frequent, moderate amount of protein. And you're not going to have a problem with eating saturated fats, because that's going to stimulate the gallbladder to release. Now, there's one last thing I think it'll be good. I just don't know how you're going to find this other than do a search with Dr. Berg and then gallbladder flush. I think it's gallbladder flush. And there's some techniques in there that I think you will really love, because in this situation, you got sludge, it's not performing, it's all probably backed up, it's creating bloating. There's some like manual work that you can do by massaging the gallbladder and the pancreas to kind of keep the flows opening up as you start improving the situation. So search the videos, and you would use the massage tool to kind of work that out, but also you want to do the opposite side. But that's what I would do, Derek. Thanks for the question. We're going to go to Karen for another question.
Good. I think this is on the same path. Jay Taylor is asking about right shoulder pain and right hand numbness, and I know you know the answer to this because I had the same thing.
Well, the gallbladder is connected to the diaphragm, sort of. It's right underneath there, and there's a little nerve that goes...
Hip bone's connected to
yeah,
that. Right.
Exactly. It goes up to the right side, goes up to the third cervical vertebra in your neck, but you have if this thing gets flared up, it can aggravate the nerve and
if what gets flared up?
The gallbladder.
Oh.
And it can actually cause anything on the right side. In fact, if you look at referred pain on the right scapula, this little muscle up here, on the right trap, even up in the headaches and the shoulder, that's all gallbladder referred. So here you are massaging this. It's kind of like when you step on a dog's tail, Karen. Where does he bark?
Not out of the tail.
Exactly. So you want to work on the gallbladder, and all of a sudden all this clears up. I had a problem with my right shoulder pain for about 12 years. Didn't know it was the gallbladder until I started to focus on it. So I do have some videos on that, but the keto intermittent fasting is really important. You probably don't want to do massive amounts of fat and the keto bombs, which are the little fat cookies on this, but intermittent fasting is going to be important, huge amount of vegetables. If you do the keto with low amounts of vegetables, I think you're going to have a problem with the gallbladder. So you've got to keep your vegetables high. And I also recommend gallbladder formula if anyone has gallbladder symptoms, especially if they don't have a gallbladder, because that will actually assist in the bloating, increase more bile. Okay? So, so now we're going to go to Nicole. You had a question. You're from Michigan. Go ahead.
Yes, it was more so about the right side of my face and my hair. It seems that I have more hair coming out of the right side. I have these weird freckle spots coming onto my cheeks, some rosacea. I just don't know why the right side of my face is doing worse than my left. Yeah, that's what it's about.
So how old are you, Nicole?
I'm 31.
31. Tell me about your menstrual cycle. Is it heavy? Is it irregular? Do you have any issues with your cycle?
No, it's consistent. It's not too much on the heavy side. I would say normal.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you're having acne on one side of your face and hair growth, and this is just my opinion, just from working with a lot of people, I've noticed that I would check the ovary function, and I have some videos on some natural things you can do for menstruation and things like that. But it's interesting, you have the left and right side of the ovary, and they reciprocate. 1 month, one ovary works, the next month the other ovary works. So if there is more acne on one side of your face every other month, then we know that's the situation. And don't ask me why this occurs, I just notice it. So that's my thing that I would do, is see if you can improve the ovary function. I have some videos on it. There's an eating plan for the ovarian body type, and I don't know if that's your body type. You can research that in my book. I have a lot of data on that. One tip on that is make sure that you do organic foods. Do not do commercial anything, because you want to do without the hormones in the food supply, without the pesticides, insecticides, and all those things, because that's the worst thing for the ovary that you can do. And even if you have facial hair in general, regardless of where it is, that could be something called PCOS, which is high insulin. It's the same thing. So get on the keto and intermittent fasting, and I think you'll be happy. All right, Karen.
Pick me.
Karen, you have a question?
We have so many good questions here. I just see this one right here I have to ask. Okay, it just flipped up. I'm going to ask this one from Tiffany first. She is feeling great. She's been on keto for about 6 weeks. She asks, how long will she be doing keto before she can see a difference in a fatty liver?
Okay, so there's a couple things. You should see some results within a few months with the fatty liver, and you can go back and get an ultrasound to see that, but you have to make sure that your vegetables are about about 8 to 10 cups a day, because all this fat that's coming out has to go through the liver. So you want to keep that thing flushed. But I would recommend adding to this whole program choline. You can get it in a supplement. It's in a powder form, and take that every single day, whatever's recommended on the powder form, because that'll speed up the fat coming out of your liver tremendously. Okay, one more question, Karen.
I get 2 more questions because I found this one. You know, sometimes it flips up, and then I lose it and have to go find it. Okay, so we have, I think it's Rohith Raja here. He says, tell me the truth. He only wants the truth, Dr. Berg, about cartilage regeneration by eating right.
Well, honestly, I don't think you're going to regenerate cartilage by eating cartilage. And that's just one point. And then the second point I'm going to make is that the cartilage is a type of protein that usually wears out when there's more inflammation in the body. And that's why in a diabetic situation, you lose a lot of protein. Protein tends to, in the muscle and the joints, and you have inflammation. So as far as the diet goes, you want to do the keto, because that cuts the carb out, which instantly improves insulin resistance, which will then allow you to absorb more proteins to build back up the joint. The other thing that's even more powerful is intermittent fasting, because that will stimulate growth hormone, which helps build up cartilage by 2,000%. I mean, exercise will only increase growth hormone by 450%. So if you were to add intermittent fasting to this, you would end up with a lot better joints. All right?
Good point. One more question. I'm stealing it. I'm hogging it. Facebook, Joyce asks, what to do to tone muscle and to handle loose skin? Are they the same thing? Do you do the same thing?
Well, the toning of the skin, you can't do it without exercise. You need to do it exercise. You have to be working that. But the toning of the skin happens when you increase growth hormone and you lower cortisol. So we have to reduce stress, got to sleep better, and increase growth hormone. The two things that, well, there's more things that trigger growth hormone, but intermittent fasting is the most powerful. Second is exercise, high intensity, lots of rest, don't overtrain. And also sleep is going to be important, avoiding carbohydrates, a lot of sun, especially in the winter, take vitamin D. And those are just some tips that you can do. All right? So let's go to Diana from Texas. You had a question, Diana.
Hello?
Hi. I'm here for your question.
Hi. Thank you. So what happened was 4 months ago, I started keto, and I did those machine scans that tells you like your muscle mass and your weight and all this stuff. So I did that, and I put the numbers down, and I compared to the one yesterday, and apparently everything was like I lost like 11 pounds. I gained muscle mass. I lost fat, but my visceral fat went from a 7 to a 12.
Yeah.
So I want to know what happened, because I feel like that's not good.
So who did the test? What test was it? Do you remember what, was it like an impedance test or a body composition?
Well, it's just a machine that you hold with your hands.
Okay.
Yeah. It's like, yeah,
okay.
It's nothing big, but
yeah.
I don't know. People say not trust the numbers, and I'm just like, I don't know.
Yeah, I've had one of those machines once. It's still in my garage. Those are not accurate. I would not use that as indication. They don't work, okay? I'm sorry. Yeah, I think you're doing great. Go by your size. There are, I mean, if you really want to know, do an ultrasound, but those impedance tests when you're doing the handheld things, I don't like them. Okay, let's go to Leanne.
Say what you mean.
Exactly.
Don't beat around the bush.
Leanne, you had a question about adding chlorella. Go ahead.
Dr. Berg.
Hi, how are you?
Hello.
Hi.
Very good, thank you. I wanted to ask you a question about chlorella, but if you don't mind, I wanted to share a little bit about my journey. In June of this year, I decided I was going to change my life, and I'm 32 years old. And since then, I've lost about 70 pounds, a few inches from my waist. I religiously follow your advice. I eat huge salads every day. I was sugar addicted. I'd wake up in the morning, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, and I'd go and grab a spoonful of Nutella. You know, I would wake up with agonizing heel pain. It wasn't until a couple of days ago I was chatting with a friend talking about my progress, and he was talking about how he'd wake up and have these terrible pains in his feet. And I was like, oh my God, I haven't felt that pain in days. And for the last couple of days, I've woken up and paid attention, and I just don't even feel it anymore. Every day I'm taking milk thistle, turmeric, apple cider vinegar, ginger, lemon. Take apple cider vinegar and water before every meal. I'm taking nutritional yeast and making kale shakes multiple times a week. So kale, spinach, ginger, turmeric, blueberry water.
Awesome.
I feel amazing. I've got 3 small hernias that I've got to get fixed, some ultrasounds. Essentially, I just let my life slip away. I'm an entrepreneur. I own a business here in Canada, Ottawa, and just sort of focused on everything except for myself, and really focused on creating employment for people. And anyway, it's been amazing to listen to you and learn from you. At the same time, I learned about my hernias. I learned about a fatty liver, and I didn't really know how to manage that, so I simply YouTubed fatty liver, and you came up. And essentially since then, that's early October, I watched several of your videos every single day, both you and Karen. Last night I had a really good time watching the video where you're with the leaf blower trying to get that shot of the recipe. I thought that was pretty funny. Anyway, I love everything you guys do. I think your mission in life is really inspiring, and it's extremely powerful. And the way you empower people by giving them information that they can then use. I mean, essentially just learning that I have to control insulin as like one of the single most important factors for me has given me extreme clarity and focus with what I need to do with every decision I make when it comes to eating.
Awesome. Thank you, Lee.
So I just want to thank you for that.
I think you should come here and do the show, basically. That's amazing.
That's great, Lee.
That is great.
You.
Everybody else who's watching, everybody else who's listening should just listen to him, because he's applying it, and he's not doing anything else but applying it. And how amazing is that? I mean, it's accolades are to you for doing your homework and applying it.
And that's really, it's really like the single most thing to focus on is that insulin. That's like behind almost so many conditions. So that's awesome. Thank you, Lee. And then you had a question about chlorella, right?
Yeah, so basically, I sort of got through the rabbit hole of some of these videos, and some really sketchy guys started talking about, wheatgrass only has this much chlorophyll. You need the superfood chlorella. And I, looked it up. I bought some from the grocery store. I put it in some water a couple times, and then I've tried looking for more information. Obviously, there's got a lot of chlorophyll, but then there's people out there that are saying, like, well, it's going to give you like iodine problems if you got thyroid issues. I don't think I have one, but then heavy metal issues. I don't know. So I'm just sort of like wondering if it's something that could be beneficial. And I know it's like something that seems like you haven't, I know you've touched on it a little bit in some videos, but just wondering what your general thoughts are at this stage.
Let me give you my 2 cents on that. I used to take chlorella. The problem is after about a couple of months, and I'm not saying this is going to happen to everyone, it tends to be a powerful chelator, so it pulls, it detoxifies, and I started noticing dark circles underneath my eyes. I didn't like that, so I think it's good short term. Happened with me, maybe it doesn't happen with other people. As far as chlorophyll in the wheatgrass, there's different levels of chlorophyll in different types of wheatgrass. I actually took my wheatgrass and I measured independently with a certain lab how much chlorophyll is in the wheatgrass, because it's grown on, I flew to the farm where they grow it, and it's just off the charts compared to the 3 other companies that are at the top around. I'm not going to mention names. Their chlorophyll levels, and ours were like way higher. And I posted this on the website under the wheatgrass. So it has massive quantities of chlorophyll and a lot of other phytonutrients that are very powerful. So I think it's awesome. I think I'm going to stick with wheatgrass juice powder chlorella. It's a bit of a detox thing. I do not believe that chlorella has more chlorophyll, but I can't tell you, exactly. But thanks, Lee. Appreciate it. We're going to go to Connie from California. Go ahead, Connie.
Hi, Dr. Berg. Thank you for all your videos. They've been really wonderful for my husband. He's lost 80 pounds. He's been on the keto since May.
Wow, that's great.
I know, it's wonderful. He's gotten kind of a little stall, but he's having an issue with the right side of his back between the waist and under the shoulder blade with a pain at night.
Yeah.
Is that caused from something he's eating?
No, that's well, it could be, but it's the gallbladder. Okay. So watch some of my videos on the gallbladder, but here's what you need to do. Do intermittent fasting for sure. It could be all this fat coming through. You might have to cut down the fat a little bit, increase the vegetables. And you can do the acupressure on the gallbladder as well. And that pain should go away really fast. But right where you said, on the back part, on the inside of the scapula, that's where the gallbladder will refer pain to. So that's all it is. So yeah, make those changes and it should go away pretty quick. All right, Karen, you have another question?
Yes, I do. Anthony is asking, this is a good point, it seems to come up. He's doing keto. He's lost all the weight he wants to lose. He realizes that the keto lifestyle is a good one, but how does he maintain that without losing more weight? What do you do?
So this is always a trick because here you are doing keto intermittent fasting, which is it's running your body on fat. So you're going to lose fat and get pretty lean, and that is the problem with this program. You get too lean. So the only thing you can do at this point is add in exercise, more weights, more full body, less reps. At the same time, you don't want to add the carbs in, you want to add more fat. But the problem is how you're going to digest that fat. So you're going to have maybe add some bile support, gallbladder formula, more apple cider vinegar, and then what you can do is start to make sure that your fat in the meal is higher and higher and higher. Do it slowly to the point where now your body is now burning a lot of the dietary fat as compared to only your fat. Okay? That's the secret. All right.
Okay.
So now we're going to go to, it's Tamanda from Oklahoma. Go ahead, Tamanda.
Hi, Dr. Berg. I'm so excited to talk to you.
Hi.
Big fan. Hi. So I have been following your videos, and I did IF. I lost about 40 pounds.
Wow.
So I used to take my son on a stroller, put him in a stroller, and he'd take a nap, and I'll just kind of walk for like 6 miles or something. Anyway, my son passed away last year. And prior to that, my ex-husband and I had lost another son. So this was a second trauma, basically. And after I lost him, I could barely sleep. And then on top of that, I started gaining weight, 18 pounds that I put back on. And I've been trying to do IF for the longest. And I even incorporated OMAD to no avail. Like, my body is just resisting it. I was getting more toned, but now I start to see some sagging. Even working out is not doing it for me, and I'm just wondering what I'm doing wrong because I don't even eat that. I don't eat fast food, and I figured there must be some kind of correlation there. I even tried to take the supplements for adrenal support that I bought somewhere, some health store, and none of that is working. So I wanted your input on that.
Okay. Well, first thing I want to say is that, yeah, when I think about Oklahoma came through in high school. They came through as a wrestling team and wrestled our team and beat every single one of us in the first match, pinned everyone. So you guys have an incredible wrestling team. But on your question, there's a couple things that you want to do. It's after you have losses and your children, that can create a lot of stress in the body and higher cortisol levels. And I think what I would do is support the adrenals with the electrolyte and the nutritional yeast tablets. Those two, because that's going to give you the unfair advantage of start putting your body back in ketosis. But I think your issue is the adrenal. And also, if you look up adrenal stress and acupressure with this tool, I show you step by step of how to walk through to pull the stress out of your body to enhance sleep and pull stress out. That's the thing I think that's kind of kicking your butt. You said that you're trying 1 meal a day, which is good, but you might have a hard time because cortisol releases sugar. Okay, it turns your muscles into sugar. So you're hitting your problem really is coming from the cortisol. So you got to handle the adrenal, and that's another thing that can stop you from getting into ketosis. So that's what I would do: go on long walks, lots of space, low stress, and try to get more sleep. Thanks, Tamanda. Tamanda, I'm sorry. Karen, you had a question?
I do. Angelique here on YouTube says that she's having an issue with alopecia and some constipation. Are those related, and can keto help?
Well, alopecia usually can be a thyroid issue, but it's an autoimmune of the hair. And so one of the best remedies for that is selenium, and then add some sea kelp. But I think there's usually an underlying adrenal issue, underlying thyroid issue that usually even happens when you have Hashimoto's as well. So I don't know if that's what you have, but the other thing that I would really watch out for is anything with glyphosate, which is an herbicide. It's in the GMO foods. So make sure you do all organic to eliminate that, because that can trigger issues with autoimmune and also thyroid issues. And then lastly, if you do the keto intermittent fasting, that takes a big stress off the immune system, and that will also help your hair as well. But it's not just a matter of taking vitamins. It's really got to support the immune system. Okay? Hey, Jarrett, you're from Dallas. You had a question about supplements for extended fasting.
Yes. Hey, Dr. Berg.
Hi.
Thanks for taking the call.
Sure.
I've been doing the 16/8 intermittent fasting, working towards the 24, and I've tried a couple of the 24-hour fast. Recently tried a 36-hour fast, and from reading on some other websites and so forth, and had a little bit of, I guess, dehydration maybe from doing that. So I kind of had a two-part question: is 23 hours sort of the optimum spot for fasting, or is there a point of diminishing returns after that?
Yeah. Good.
And if you are fasting, whether it's 23 hours or longer, are there some non-food supplements that you could do to stave off dehydration?
Yeah, good question. So first of all, there's a sweet spot for results, and then it tends to plateau a little bit. Okay, but you still will improve. It's between 18 to 24 hours. That's the sweet spot. So if you can get anywhere between there and closer, I think if you were to do, I don't know, a 3 or 4 hour window, okay, that would be really good. Or maybe even a 2 hour window, that would be even a little bit better. But then after that, you're going to kind of level off a little bit. So, and I'm talking about the amount of hours that you're going to be fasting without eating. Now, as far as supplements go, the two supplements that I always recommend to do this would be the electrolyte mix that has enough potassium, magnesium, calcium, trace minerals without the sugar, no maltodextrin, because you need that to actually support this machine, these new machines that are burning fat, and also B vitamins in the form of nutritional yeast. And I have something called nutritional yeast tablets that are really effective because it's unfortified. It doesn't have the synthetics, plus I added the B12. So those two together are like essential, okay? But here's the other point. When you go into autophagy, which your body is recycling and it's adapting to this not eating, you actually preserve nutrients. Your body starts holding on to nutrients a little bit more. So you don't have to worry as much as you think about dumping a ton of nutrients in the body because your body is adapting. You would think that because you're not eating, you're starving and you're going to lose a lot of nutrients, but that's not what really happens. As long as the meals that you eat are nutrient dense and you're getting roughly what you need, you're going to be totally fine, okay, because there's this adaptation mechanism. All right? All right, now let's go over to Karen.
I have some cool questions here, and I hope I pronounced this right. Yamagishi says, what does your body do with fats when you're on a high-carb diet?
Yeah, so when you're in a high-carb diet, the body will always, as a priority, burn those carbs. It will not burn fat. And that's a little switch. It's like a little mechanism. In order to burn fat, you have to lower carbs. So if you add both fat and sugar to the diet, first of all, you're going to exaggerate insulin even more than if you ate them separately. Secondly, you're not going to burn the fat. You're going to only burn the carb. And that's the body has this priority system.
So what does it do with the fat then?
It probably puts it as storage as additional fat. I'm sorry.
That's sad.
Yeah.
Okay, I have another question.
Okay, one more.
Okay, well, Flora's asking, Can she take more than 1 scoop of the Wheatgrass Juice Powder every day, even though she's on intermittent fasting, and would that break the fast?
Yeah, and this is a question. I just did a video on it. No, you're not going to stimulate insulin when you're on the Wheatgrass Juice Powder. You can take more than, it's really only 1 calorie per scoop. So you're not going to, less than 1 calorie of carb. You're not going to stimulate, you're not going to bump yourself out of ketosis at all. You can do the electrolyte mix, you can do the wheatgrass, and it's not a problem at all. But that question keeps coming up. Now, just because there's probably going to be another question, I'm already predicting what you're going to ask. Can you chew gum on a ketogenic diet, right? Was that it?
Yeah, it's like you're psychic.
So first of all, there's sugar, there's aspartame in gum. Well, yeah, that's going to worsen things. But let's say you're chewing gum with xylitol. No, it's not going to bump you out of ketosis. It's such a small amount, and then that sweetness is gone within a second, and then you're chewing this actual just like rubber. So you're not going to bump yourself out of ketosis. Okay, so anything that you drink, tea, even coffee in small amounts, is not going to bump you out of ketosis. Water will not bump you out of ketosis. Okay? So now let's go to Richard from Houston. You had a question.
Yes, sir. My question is based on shift work. I work a 12-hour shift, basically 4:30 in the morning to 4:30 at night for 4 days. Then I have 4 days off, and I go 4:30 at night to 4:30 in the morning. And I'm having trouble figuring out how to switch intermittent fasting around.
Yeah. All right, Richard, good question. I did a video. I don't even know if I released that video. I'll have to check. I don't think I released that video. I'm glad you reminded me. Yeah, the shift work is a pain in the butt because you're throwing your body into a whole different pattern, especially if it's non-consistent. If you were to, I think what you told me is you have a rotational shift where it's a little different. I think maybe I heard you incorrectly on that, but the point is you, if you're doing shift work, you want to keep it consistent, and even on the days off if possible, because your circadian waves are going to be all messed up. Now you could probably get away with this if you have really good adrenals and you're pretty young, but it's going to mess up your circadian rhythm with your fat burning and your and ketosis as well. So in the meantime, what do, right? Until you can kind of work out a schedule, I would just adapt your what you eat and your intermittent fasting based on when you go to work. So in other words, what I would do is if let's say you're working night shifts and then day shift and you're sleeping during the day and you're working at night, go ahead and just do the same thing. Fast for an hour. Okay, you get up, go ahead, eat, and then you're sleeping for a while, and then go ahead and try to just make sure the most important thing is go from push your fasting as long as possible. And I would have to clarify exactly what you said on that, so I might not be explaining this, but you want to keep your intermittent fasting is the same as possible going through this. All right. Hey, John, you're from Tennessee. You had a question about keto and tendonitis?
Yes. I've been doing keto for about 6 weeks now. Mm-hmm. Lost 25 pounds. I'm eating 2 meals a day, sometimes 1. Feeling really good overall. But I've got tendonitis above both of my kneecaps. It's just giving me fits, and I don't know what to do with that. Any suggestions?
Yeah, good question. Now, John, on a rare occasion, if you ever get an ultrasound and there might be a tear there, if there's a tear, like it's never going to get better, so you're going to have to get that handled, and maybe even stem cell might be an option. But let's just say there's no tear and you just have tendonitis. Doing intermittent fasting over a period of time will improve that. But on some cases, it might be an old injury on the kneecaps. I did a video on knee pain. You should research that and do that technique because it's nothing short of miraculous. And what you're working on is muscles up into the thigh and the outside of the leg. So if it's symmetrical on both knees, on the top of the knees, then you'd work on the back of the knees. And someone would do some stimulation or massage, or you can even use a massage tool on that. But that will knock out pain that you can't get rid of when you're doing intermittent fasting, because you have two things. You have inflammation that you're pulling out of the body from intermittent fasting and ketosis, and And then you also have another situation where the pain's in there from an old injury that might be coming from like a different source. Maybe the mechanics are off, whatever. In these videos, I show you how to get rid of it, but you're going to be working on other places in the body that are on the opposite side, and I think you'll be impressed. So that's what I would do, and if you were here, I'd do a demonstration on you. So thanks for that call. Someone also wanted to know about how long do you have to do fasting before you trigger autophagy, okay? And that is the body's ability to recycle garbage from your body and damaged parts and turning them into good, healthy tissue again. It's kind of like an anti-aging process when you do intermittent fasting. The sweet spot is between 18 and 24 hours. So if you can do it that period of time, and I would recommend doing it like 20 hours. If you can go to 20 hours, I think you'll be in really good shape, and push it a little bit more, maybe 21, 22 hours. But that's the sweet spot for autophagy. And the longer you go, the more you're going to get. But it seems to have a plateauing effect at around 24 hours after that. So that's what you need to do on that. All right, Karen?
Yeah.
Do you have any questions coming up?
Well, I just want to say first, for this intermittent fasting email, just type basics in the Facebook Live comments, and then there's a link in YouTube.
It's a course that you can take.
It's a course, okay.
Yeah.
A course. Basics on Facebook Live, and there's a link to click if you're on YouTube. Yeah. Okay, so Christina is asking about estrogen dominance and what can help with that, and specifically, would the nutritional yeast do anything for that?
Good question. No, the nutritional yeast is going to handle a different thing. It's going to handle B vitamin deficiencies and adaptation. But estrogen dominance is usually an overproductive ovary that you need to support just by consuming organic foods and get off anything that's GMO. So like the soy and the corn, the canola oil that's in the foods, and also even animals have that as grain. It's all GMO. That's going to aggravate your problem and keep you estrogen dominance more than anything else. So if you were to go organic for everything, I think that would be the best solution to kind of reduce the estrogen. But there are things you can take. One would be sea kelp. I would do the Icelandic sea kelp because that is really good at regulating estrogen. There's another product I have called cruciferous food, which has all the cruciferous in an organic form, and that has also the ability to help regulate estrogen. It doesn't give you more or take away more. What it does is it balances the ratio. So it brings down the bad estrogen and it raises the good estrogen, and that would be a concentrated cruciferous type thing, and the sea kelp. Those are the two things I would recommend. So let's go to Alex. You're from New Jersey. You're a weightlifter, and you had a question about MCT oil.
Hey, Dr. Berg, how you doing?
Good.
Thanks for taking the call. Much appreciated.
Sure.
So listen, I got a question. I've been doing intermittent fasting, ketogenic diet all summer. I'm a landscaper, so I'm outside constantly. I'm working and moving, so it fit perfectly with my lifestyle. I have a question though. With lifting and my strength goals, sometimes I integrate some low GI carbs into the mix. Whether at night, if it's my second meal of the day, at the end of the week, stuff like that. Things like lentils, rarely sweet potatoes, mostly just lentils. But nonetheless, I love MCT oil in my coffee, and in my shakes, things of that nature. My question to you is, if I do a bit of a refeed, say, I'm 25 years old and I'm about 230 pounds. Say I, have about maybe 100, 150 grams of carbohydrates, low GI carbs, and then I, within the same few hours have MCT oil. Is my body going to use the MCT oil, or is it going to try to use those carbs immediately? And this is during, while I'm in ketosis, I guess, up until I integrate those carbs.
Yeah, this is a really good question, Alex. I want to bring up because there's conflicting information out on the internet about this, that you have to refeed carbs, like you have carb loading, and even if it's low GI carbs or resistant starch, okay? This philosophy is that you need to do this because the body, needs carbs, and it's going to help your muscles. It's going to help burn fat. It's false information. It's absolutely false information. If you look at ketosis and how to get in ketosis, you have to keep the carbs between 20 and 50 grams. You're doing 150 grams, you're not going to be in ketosis, and it's going to actually distract from building the muscle that you want and losing the weight. If you were to add MCT oil with these carbs, what's going to happen? You're going to exaggerate insulin even more, because when you combine any fat with a carb, it's even worse than having them separately. So as far as food combining goes, you want to avoid carbs with protein and carbs with fat. What you want to combine is protein and fat. Those are the two things you want to do. Now you can do vegetables. That would be your low glycemic carb, all those. But I wouldn't start getting into the lentils. I wouldn't get into the fruit. That's going to slow you down, especially if you're over 200 pounds and you want to lose weight. It's false data that you need these carbs. Now, I think what happens is people that are in the transition phase and they haven't adapted yet 100%, and they have low blood sugar, and they take a carb and they feel so much more energy, especially when they work out. That's simply because you're raising the sugar up. But you're never going to get out of this blood sugar thing. What you want to do is fully adapt to the ketogenic program to the point where when you work out, bam, you tap into that fat, you can run your body in fat, you have efficient fuel, but that takes a while to get to that state. And that's why I never recommend intermittent fasting with a higher carbohydrate diet, because you're going to be susceptible to the blood sugars, and you're going to get tired if you don't eat, and you're going to get tired if you work out. Why? Because you haven't adapted to ketones yet. So that's a long answer, but hope that helped. All right, Karen, do you have any quick questions there?
Oh, you caught me off guard. I was typing an answer here. Yeah, a lot of people asking, Karen, take my question. There's so many questions here. So Diane says, I always heard that you need potassium to stop cramping, but is it really magnesium?
Well, as far as the muscle goes, the muscle uses 4 main minerals for the contraction and relaxation of the muscles, okay? You need calcium for the contraction, you need potassium, magnesium for the relaxation, you also even need sodium. So it's really hard to determine exactly which mineral that you need that you're deficient in that's causing the cramp. But if you even add any mineral in there, especially if it's calcium, magnesium, sodium, or potassium, the cramp should lessen. But when you eat food or consume anything, it never comes as one mineral. So that's why I like a blend. I would do electrolyte mix or do foods high in minerals, and that's the best way to correct the deeper problem. But again, usually calcium will help, potassium will help, magnesium will help. It's hard to tell which one you're deficient, especially if you're checking the blood, because a lot of these minerals are inside the cell. They're not outside the cell. So you would have to do like a special test to measure intracellular minerals, which people never do. So you could have normal minerals in the blood or outside the cell, but a very huge deficiency inside the cell. So again, I would just do a blend of all the minerals. Electrolyte powder usually works good. I'm going to go to Catherine now. She's in Baltimore. You have a question for Alzheimer's. Go ahead, Catherine.
Yes, hi. My father is old and frail and has Alzheimer's. Is the ketogenic diet, I know I went through a lot to get into ketosis. So, I mean, as far as, energy-wise, it was difficult for me. But that was because I didn't do the avocados and to support my body with all of the nutrients. I lowered my carbs and ate bacon and cream cheese and things like that. But I don't know if my father's going to have a hard time getting into ketosis. And is it safe for him to do, like he's old? And then is it safe for children to do, because their metabolism is so high that I feel like my 7-year-old would be, it would be difficult for him to be healthy in a ketogenic diet, because he's at a good healthy weight, but I don't want him to disappear.
Right. Okay. Well,
and then okay.
Go ahead. So let me just answer the 2 questions, okay? For kids, I think it's great, but I wouldn't do a lot of intermittent fasting with kids unless they need to lose weight. So maybe you do 3 good meals, add a real good amount of quality food. All you're trying to do with this is you're trying to cut out the refined sugars and carbs and not raise the insulin so much. So I mean, the amount of sugar that I consumed, the amount of sugar that a child consumes normally is just off the charts. So I wouldn't be afraid to put them on a version of it at 7-year-olds, and then, you know, I mean, go ahead and do the sweet potato if you want to do that, or, but I wouldn't do any refined sugars. Okay, now for your dad, I don't know, if it was my dad and he had Alzheimer's, what I would do, it's an absolute mandatory thing to do ketosis and, more importantly, intermittent fasting, because you're going to put him in a state of what's called autophagy, which is very good for the brain to help protect the brain against something called amyloid plaquing, which is kind of this thing that you always see in Alzheimer's patients and Parkinson's. It's kind of it disrupts the electricity and the flow of neurons and all these things in the brain, and that comes from high levels of insulin. So the question, is it safe? Well, it's safe. It's not safe not to do it. It's very dangerous not to do this because he has high insulin, most definitely, and that's creating the problem. So the absolute best thing to do is to put him on intermittent fasting, just like I explained in the book and in my videos, and start doing it over a period of time to the point where you can start restoring memory and improve the cognitive function on a nice gradient. Okay? All right. Thank you guys so much. Have a great holiday, and we're going to talk to you next Friday, right before the New Year's. All right?
Happy holiday.